Hello everyone and welcome to Piofiore, Faded Memories, Nicola's arc. This is our final episode for this arc and I'm super excited to see what happens. So, let's find out. Nicola turned his head to me and smiled gently. He continued without answering my question.
ファルツォーネとしてもヴィスコンティとしても彼には公正な裁きを受けさせたいんだ。マフィアに闇討ちされたではなくね。そうすることが僕たちの汚名を注ぐことにつながる。それに君にこれ以上血を見せたくない。
Nicola. Then, suddenly...
なんだ、ジューシー。出てこい、フランチェスカ。
A lunatic voice rose above the gunfire. Roberto was closing in on us.
お前が出てこないなら、この町の腐った人間を一人ずつ減らしていく。マフィアの権力に甘え恩恵に預かる愚民に生きる価値はない。
What is he saying?
これが正義だ、フランチェスカ。
Nicola's eyes grew cold. He turned around, loosening his grip on my hand. I tried to stop him by squeezing his hand tightly. I'm going with you, Nicola. We looked at each other for a moment. That was all that was needed. He understood right away. I had no intention of changing my mind.
僕の後ろに。
The people were scattering away from the gunfire. Nicola parted the oncoming crowd and headed straight toward the source. And he finally found it.
僕はここだ、ロベルト。
His voice was loud and clear over the people running and screaming. Nicola held my hand and stood in front of me to cover me.
おとなしく姿を現すとは、いい心構えだ。今すぐ彼女を離せ。彼女はお前のものじゃない。
Roberto demanded him to release me, to which Nicola replied,
最初に言っておくけど、僕は君の正義を裁定するつもりはないよ。ブルローネマフィアの構成員を殺したのも、それにマルコを殺したのも、君にとっては正義なんだろう。
マルコはマフィアと長らく通じていた。この町の警察官には皆、多少なりともマフィアとつながりがあるのは理解している。だがマルコは肩入れしすぎた。死んで当然だ。町を腐らせるマフィアと何も変わらない。
マフィアならいくらでも殺していいって？
当然だ。それこそが町の浄化に、平和につながる。
Nicola stared at Roberto in silence with his cold and ruthless eyes.
僕たちは暴力で暴力を御す生き物だ。暴力で金を集め、権力を集め、人の意向を買う。町を、そこに住む者たちごと土地を守る。そのためなら死すら恐れない。だから僕たちは尊敬されるんだ。
尊敬だと？
いいかな、ロベルト・デ・フェオ。たとえ君の正義を世界中が認めたとしても、僕の答えは変わらない。
He spoke boldly to Roberto.
この子は渡せない。僕は彼女を愛しているから。
Roberto's eyes widened and his lips quivered.
愛しているだと？
僕は名誉ある男だ。だから愛する女性は命に変えても守る。
バカな。お前に、お前のような犯罪者ごときに名誉など。
Roberto's face contorted with agony, but Nicola smiled.
僕は絶対にこの手を離さない。
He was right. He had been holding my hand all this time. His feelings seemed to flow through my hand to warm my heart. Roberto stood there, shaking in rage.
君はたくさんの人を殺し、そして僕の大切な人にまで手をかけようとした。その裁きを受けるべきだ。けど裁くのは僕たちじゃない。君の好きなイタリア王国の正義、司法に身を委ねるという。
くそ、ふざけるな。お前は犯罪者だろう、フランチェスカ。裁かれるのは俺じゃない。責められるべきがお前だ。その女も本心では俺を求めている。違うと言うなら殺してやる。女もお前も。
Nicola sighed, hearing his madness explode in front of us. He then let go of my hand. Before I knew it, his gun appeared.
じゃあ殺してあげるよ。
He spoke without remorse. His eyes were dead cold. I had never seen Nicola like this before. Roberto froze while pointing his gun at us. He was gasping for air as if he was being stared at by death himself. And, in a flash of a moment, the scene playing out before me unfolded as if in slow motion.
君は僕の忠告を無視した。
I remembered the words he said before.
覚えておくといい。彼女を傷つけるのは僕が許さない。君の正義を押し付けるな。
Roberto fell to the ground with a thud. Nicola looked down at him.
僕はね、こんな生き方をしているけど、望んで人を殺したことなんてなかった。だけど、君のことは、心底殺してやりたいと思ったよ。僕の誇りにかけて。
Nicola put his gun back in his coat, then smiled at me.
終わったよ。
Nicola! I hugged him tightly. He held my shivering body with firm arms. Within a day, the people of Berlone found out what really happened. The Falzone family boss, Dante Falzone, was attacked in the Veleno district and a gunfight ensued. By sheer coincidence, the Visconti family was nearby and saved his life. During that time, Detective Roberto De Feo went on a shooting rampage in the Falce district. To prevent further violence, the Visconti's Nicola Francesca shot and killed him. Later, evidence was found proving the detective's connection to the Lao Shu. The discovery was made implicating Roberto in the mass murders against the mafia in Berlone. Roberto had given his eyewitness account of Marco's final words naming Nicola as his killer. But his words were to be rescinded later.
あんたを屋敷から連れ出したやつはラオ州とつながりがあったらしい。あんたを危険にさらしちまった。本当にすまなかった。
Gil was struck with remorse. But he raised his head and looked straight at me, apologizing in earnest. It's all right, Gil. You don't need to apologize. I shook my head and smiled. Nicola came to save me, so I'm okay. I know you've been through a lot of trouble for me, Gil. Gil worked with the newspaper to publish Roberto's deeds and clear Nicola's name. He never once reprimanded Nicola for moving on his own during the mission. Nicola really appreciates what you've done too.
言っておくけど、僕はまだちょっと怒っているよ。
Nicola. I sighed, then looked at Nicola.
まあ、ちょっとだけだけどね。
Nicola shrugged, but I could tell he was angry inside.
君は本当に危ないところだったんだよ。いつ殺されてもおかしくなかった。僕がたどり着く前に終わっていたかも。そう考えると怒りが収められないんだ。ギルバートに対しても、もちろん僕自身にも。
Gil nodded in response.
ああ、惚れた女の命がかかってたんだ。そう簡単に許せるわけねえよ。
Gil.
それにほら、ニコラは根に持つタイプだろ。
I can see that.
それは失礼じゃないかな、僕に。
Gil cleared his throat to change the subject.
とにかく、ニコラへの疑いは無事に晴れたと言っていい。それに明日には、オリバーが分野に書かせた新しい記事も出る。
Article?
そうだな。簡単に説明すると、ファルツォーネを裏切ってビスコンティについたニコラ・フランチェスカの行動は、すべて見せかけだったって内容だ。ニコラの裏切りは、ブルローネマフィアを狙った連続殺人犯をあぶり出すために必要だった。ファルツォーネとビスコンティは水面下で手を組んでおり、この町の不穏分子を叩くために動いてた。そういうことになってる。
Are you sure that can go into the paper? Isn't Dante going to be upset?
ダンテの許可は取ってあるからな。双方の構成員にもすでに伝達済みだ。
まさか僕たち僕に知らせるのを一番最後にしたってこと？
Nicola looked bewildered and the corners of Gil's lips turned upward.
ご名答。事態が落ち着くまでは秘密裏に俺とダンテだけで取り決めた約束だったが、ことが片付いたんで裏事情を公表したっていう体裁を取った。
そんなこと勝手に決められても困るんだけど。
Nicola bitterly shrugged his shoulders.
僕は本気で裏切ったわけだし。
お前の目的はうちに来てファルツォーネを潰すことだった。ただしカポであるダンテを殺さずブルローネ追放で手打ちにする。その代わりニコラ・フランチェスカは最大限ビスコンティのために働く。そうい
I didn't know that.
この条件から考えりゃ、お前が何のためにファミリーを裏切ったかは想像に難くねえ。
So, Gil knew all along. He knew that Nicola betrayed Dante and the family to let Dante free.
だがニコラの思惑にダンテ本人の意思は絡んじゃいない。そうだろう。
君だってダンテの性格は知っているだろう。彼に面と向かって話せば反対する。自分を殺して自由を諦める。ダンテはそういう男だ。
ニコラ・フランチェスカ。
Gil suddenly spoke in a serious tone.
そろそろ腹をくくれ。お前が真実、名誉ある男なら。
けじめね。
Nicola looked sternly at Gil.
ギルバート、君は僕に何を求める？
Gil narrowed his eyes. I couldn't tell if he was angry or if he was just having fun.
手始めに俺のファミリーから出て行ってもらおうか。
Huh? I expressed my surprise without thinking.
ニコラとの契約は終了だ。 散々家の中を引っかき回されたからな。お前はビスコンティにはいらねえ。
随分な物言いだね。
お前の目的はファルツォーネを潰すことだが、ラオ州が倒れた今となっちゃうちとしてはファルツォーネと戦争するより住み分けた方が面倒も少ないんでな。だからお前の目的はここじゃ果たせねえ。どこへなりと言って好き勝手一人でやれ。ああ、そうだ、自分で持ち込んだもんはきちんと持って帰れよ。
Gil then looked at me. I wasn't sure why he was looking at me, but after a short moment, it dawned on me. Are you sure? Gil responded quickly.
ラオ州がなくなったんだ。失った上がりを補うには教国は嫌でもうちとの交渉の席に着かざるを得ない。せいぜい優位な条件で取引をさせてもらうさ。それに今回の件でビスコンティは大枚はたいちまったからな。余計な居候を養う余裕はねえんだ。
Gil,
仮にもし俺がダメだって言ったらどうなると思う？
huh? Then I would have to stay here forever.
あんたが惚れてるのはこの町最大のマフィアファルツォーネファミリーを敵に回した男だぞ。躊躇なく俺に銃を突きつけるだろうさ。あんたを俺から奪うためならな。
After hearing Gil's words, I turned my head to look at Nicola. He caught my eye and smiled. His usual front was making it hard for me to tell what was going on in his mind. But I'm pretty sure what Gil said wouldn't have been too far from the truth. That's what I believed, at least.
分かったらさっさと荷物をまとめるんだな。
After Nicola and I left the lounge, he let out a sigh.
実はダンテから屋敷に顔を出せって言われているんだけど、すごく行きづらい。
It can't be helped. Gil stepped out right after us, and hearing Nicola's words, he burst out laughing.
情けねえな。腹を割って話せばいいだけだろうが。お前がやろうとしたのはダンテだけじゃねえ。大勢の人間の人生を変えちまうことだ。その真意を伝えないままでいるなんて筋が通らねえにも程がある。
Gil kept talking so that Nicola wouldn't have a chance to argue.
ダンテが本当に自由になりたいって言うならブルローネはビスコンティがもらう。それだけのことだ。
And what would you do to Dante? Gil shrugged at my question, exhaling deeply.
そんなふぬけは殺す価値もねえな。この町から追放してそれで終わりだ。お前がどう立ち回ろうと結果は変わらねえ。
Gil changed his tone.
ニコラ・フランチェスカはブルローネのためにビスコンティに来た。事態が落ち着いた以上、お前がこの屋敷を出ていくのは当然だ。口裏合わせろよ。
And with that, Gil walked down the hallway and out of sight.
腹を割って話せばいいだけか。一言だと思って簡単に言ってくれるね。
I'm sure Gil was trying his best to cheer you on.
分かっているよ。行こうか。
To the Falzones?
うん。ダンテときちんと話をする。
Yes. I'm sure it will go well.
君も一緒に来てくれる？
Why, of course. Nicola sighed and smiled, seeing me beam brightly at his invitation.
ニコラさん、お帰りなさい。
Upon our arrival at the Falzone Manor, Leo greeted us with a bright smile on his face. Leo, it's so nice to see you again.
はい、お久しぶりです。
Leo was so happy to see Nicola that it almost seemed like he was going to pounce on him.
俺、ずっとニコラさんのこと信じてましたからね。何も教えてくれないなんて水臭いですよ。本当に急で、俺すごく心配して。
そうだね。突然みんなを裏切って心配かけてごめん。
それも作戦だったんだし、ニコラさんが悪いんじゃないって分かってます。けど心配しました。とにかく2人が帰ってきてくれて嬉しいです。
いや、帰ってきたわけじゃなくて、今日はダンテに挨拶しに来ただけなんだ。僕事前にそう連絡したよね。
それってつまり帰ってきたってことですよね。とにかくカポがお待ちかねですよ。どうぞ中へ。
はあ。
Nicola groaned, not being able to get through to him. I chuckled at their usual back and forth. It almost felt like nothing has changed. Just looking inside the manor brought back memories of our living together here. We could reminisce later. It was time for us to go and meet Dante. Leo took his leave near the salon, and we continued our way down the familiar corridor. Nicola's expression hardened the closer we got. Sensing his tension, I reached out and gently took his hand. He looked at me astonished. He quickly squeezed my hand and smiled to show that he was all right. Soon, we arrived at the office where the Falzone's boss resided.
来たか。遅かったな。
Dante slowly stood from his chair and looked at us. For several moments, Dante and Nicola looked at each other without a word. Nicola broke the silence and began to speak.
君に礼を言いに来た。
礼か。覚えがないな。
Dante spoke in a low voice, his expression unchanging. Nicola responded.
君にもらった情報のおかげで彼女を助けられた。君の情報がなければ僕はきっと彼女、大切なものを失っていた。
Dante calmly looked into Nicola's eyes and asked the question.
あの時、昔のお前ならどうしただろうな。ファミリーの作戦を無視し、俺を置いて一人の女の元へ走ったか。
それは。
Nicola was hesitant to reply. Dante looked at me.
お前はどう思う？
I took a deep breath and answered. The old Nicola wouldn't have come for me. That was why I was completely surprised to see him there back then. He would never have left your side if he were still with the Falzone family.
同意見だ。ニコラが忠実な構成員だったことは、この俺が他の誰より知っている。
ダンテ。
Nicola tried to speak, but Dante shook his head and continued.
たとえファミリーを裏切ったとしても、その目的は俺を害するためじゃない。考えれば考えるほど、そうとしか思えなかった。
Dante was speaking from the heart. He looked at Nicola sternly with unwavering eyes.
なぜファルツォーネを離れた？正直に話せ、ニコラ。
Nicola was still hesitant to speak. But, after a moment, Nicola finally opened his mouth to say what was on his mind.
君は 血に縛られている。
そうか。だからか。
Just a single line from Nicola. That was all Dante needed to hear. Dante closed his eyes, as if reminiscing.
否定はできない。組織を背負う重責を感じたこともある。俺はカポとして未熟だ。本来ならまだこの立場につくべき人間じゃない。迷いもあった。ファルツォーネのカポでいることに。今回の件、責任は全て俺にある。
He lowered his head and closed his eyes in suffering. But soon enough, he lifted his face to us, showing his usual self as boss of the family.
ファルツォーネファミリーは俺が守るべき場所だ。使命や生まれによる義務だけじゃない。俺はこのファミリーを守りたい。これは俺自身の意志だ。それがたとえ血に縛られた生き様だとしても。
ダンテ。
俺は名誉ある男だ。この胸に消えない誇りがある。カポとしての宿命を手放しはしない。俺は死ぬまでファルツォーネの男だ。
本当にいいの？
At Nicola's question, Dante gave a small smile.
俺自身が選んだ。悔いはない。
そうか。
Nicola sighed with relief, but chuckled to himself with scorn.
すべては僕の一人相撲だったってことか。
俺のことを考えての行動だったとしても、お前はファミリーに背いた。離反はマフィアとしてあるまじき振る舞いだ。本来なら厳しく処罰しなければならない。だが、ニコラ・フランチェスカという男は、俺にとって兄にも等しい存在だ。俺も人間だ。兄に手をかけることはしたくない。
そんな、ずるいよ、ダンテ。
Nicola covered his face with his hand and tried to shake off his tears.
今まで僕を兄だなんて一度も言ったことなかったくせに、そういうのは反則だ。
Nicola's voice shook.
ニコラ、ありがとう。
Thank goodness. I breathed a sigh of relief, seeing that their true feelings had finally been shared. Silence took over the room for a moment, then Dante spoke.
お前がいないと仕事が滞って仕方ない。おかげでずっと寝不足だ。
Dante pouted in a manner that almost seemed as if he were back in his youth.
俺に愛想が尽きたのでなければ、この屋敷に戻ってほしいと思う。
ダンテ、それは。
ただし、次の裏切りは許さない。約束できるか、ニコラ・フランチェスカ。
Nicola placed his hand over his heart and replied with dignity.
約束する。ダンテ・ファルツォーネ、君というカポの右腕として、僕はファルツォーネで生きていく。
交渉成立だな。
Tears swelled in my eyes. As I tried to fight back my tears, Dante turned his head to me.
お前のことも巻き込んでしまってすまなかった。
Not at all. I'm fine, really. I didn't expect Dante to apologize to me as boss. I would have been dead that night if Nicola hadn't come to save me. On top of that, I'm beyond happy that Nicola is back to being a Falzone again.
君って怖
Nicola sighed, hearing my words. Dante looked at both of us and smiled.
俺は二人を祝福しよう。心から。
Thank you. With our conversation with Dante over, I walked out to the garden with Nicola. We sat on the bench and breathed in the fresh air. The cool breeze signaled the coming of winter. After a short moment, Nicola thanked me.
ありがとう。
Nicola? He looked around the beautiful garden and spoke softly.
また君とこの庭を見られるなんて思ってもみなかった。この中庭は僕たちが何度も同じ時間を過ごした場所で、僕が初めて君に甘えたくなってしまった場所だ。
His words brought vivid memories back from when we were in the garden. He said to me that he was only being kind to me because I was of some value to him. But I wonder if what he said back then actually had some truth to it. Nicola looked at me and whispered quietly in my ear.
ねえ、僕が前に半端な状態って言ったことを覚えている？
Yes.
僕は今連続殺人犯だと世間に思われている。君にだって迷惑をかけるかもしれない。だからこんな半端な状態で愛の言葉をささやくなんてできない。
Nicola forced a smile while looking straight into my eyes.
今なら君に伝えられる。聞いてくれますか？
He spoke my name, then slowly placed his hands on mine. Yes. Please tell me.
素直になるのは、本心を語ることは今もまだ少し抵抗があるんだ。けどどうやったって隠したままではいられない。
His beautiful jade eyes were captivating. Deep in his eyes, I could see my reflection as well.
僕は君のことが好きだ。愛している。どうかこれからもそばにいてほしい。
Nicola held my hand more strongly now.
僕はマフィアだ。その生き方は変えられない。君はきっといつか後悔する。僕を嫌いになる日が来るかもしれない。血に濡れた僕の手を汚いと思うかもしれない。でも僕は君を離してあげられない。だからごめん。諦めてくれる？
Nicola. My heart trembled from his words. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. Yes, nothing would make me happier. I want to be with you forever. I don't care if you're mafia. Hearing my response, Nicola embraced me.
ね
I looked up and saw him grinning with a playful look on his face.
キスしてもいい？シニョリーナ。
I chuckled at his request and the tears flowed from my eyes. Why, of course, Signor Francesca. I closed my eyes, hearing him talk to me the way he did before. Tears of joy and happiness slowly rolled down my cheeks. That was such a wild ride. Oh my goodness gracious, just emotions all over the place, and oh my gosh, and my feelings, and yes! Yes! Anyways, hi everyone. I really hope that you enjoyed Nicola's arc. Like, there was just so much mystery, and I had so many questions, and I'm so, like, I really, really love how the story was executed. Like, just the mysteries of, like, the murders and what was going on behind the scenes in Nicola's head, and just, you know, like the characters and everything. Like, oh my gosh, I really hope that you liked this arc. Please feel free to comment below. Let's talk about it. Let's grab some tea and sit down and just chitty chat about, you know, all our feelings and everything. Also, guys, we do have videos of the tragic ending for his story, so feel free to check that out too. I will say there's a little bit of a warning for it. It's kind of intense, but definitely worth checking out. So please let me know what you think. Don't forget, guys, hit that thumbs up. And go ahead and hit that big red shiny button that says subscribe. I look forward to seeing what other arcs there are and everyone else's stories. So, relax. I'm going to read the rest of this, and I'll see you next time. The birds were chirping, beckoning the sunrise. The winter sunlight gently shone inside through the glass window. My mind sleepily tried to awaken from the morning light. I tried to stretch away the tiredness I felt, but I couldn't seem to move. I felt warmth right next to me. Good morning, Nicola.
おはよう。すっかり目が覚めたみたいだね。
Yes. His gentle smile was so endearing that I wanted to hide my face. Nicola is looking at me. That was all he was doing, but that alone was embarrassing for me. Just thinking about yesterday was too much. Even now, our bodies were in contact. I could feel Nicola's warmth on my skin.
今のうちに謝っておこうかな。
Huh? He played with my hair using his fingers. I looked into his face as he whispered.
昨日はごめんね。僕は自分のことをもうちょっと冷静な、理性的な人間だと思っていたんだけど、どうも実際は違ったみたいだ。
Nicola, just a moment. I realized what he was referring to, so I tried to stop him from saying anything further.
あまり無理をさせたくなかったんだけど、本当は。
Wait, you don't have to tell me.
思い出すも何も、たった数時間前の出来事なのに。それとも、もう忘れちゃったの？それは僕、男として結構自信なくすんだけど。
I didn't forget or anything. That's not it at all. I just thinking about it is I feel like I'm going to die. Nicola looked at me with caring eyes as I blushed a scarlet red.
ごめんね、僕が悪い。怒っていいよ。
I wasn't sure if he was genuinely sorry or if he was simply teasing me. Look at his bright smile, just hearing him speak to me like this. It's making my heart beat so fast that I can hear it thumping in my chest. I wanted to hide myself from him. Of course, it was impossible, so I decided to simply reply to his question. No, I'm not mad. In fact, I'm happy now.
嬉しい。何が？
I can feel that you really love me from the bottom of your heart. Nicola?
もっと伝えたくなってきた。
Huh? Oh, I need to get up. I have to go and help Julia with.
大丈夫。まだみんな寝ているよ。もう少し僕とベッドにいよ。
But any more of this and I think I really am going to die. Dying from embarrassment, but more so from the happiness of being with him. Nicola spoke to me in a sweet and gentle way in an effort to delay my departure.
誰かに触れて、こんなに幸せな気持ちになったのは初めてなんだ。だから、もっと僕を幸せにして、愛しい人。ね、お願い。
That's so unfair, Nicola. How could I refuse that? I was unable to hide my blushing from him in such close quarters. He smiled and gently embraced me. Welcome to Berlone, facing the Adriatic Sea, a town ruled by the Mafia. I was born and raised in a world outside of the Mafia, and I fell in love with the Falzone family's underboss, Nicola Francesca.